Hello and welcome to Friend Update episode number 6. I'm Dan Wood.
And I'm Adam Spring.
And today we're going to be talking all about community. Now maybe you're new to the Friend platform, maybe you're a developer, maybe you've got some ideas, you want to find out where you can get some help and technical support. Today we're going to introduce you to a lady who can help you with all of that.
And all the way from the land of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco.
Hey friends, and welcome to our 6th episode of Friend Update. Great to have you joining us. And if you are new to this, this is like a little update that Adam and I do at the start of every week to bring you up to speed with the latest developments in the world of Friend, and also introduce you to members of our team as well. And I think, Adam, there might be quite a lot of new people watching this week after a rather big appearance that we did on Floss Weekly last week.
Yeah, so basically, your Floss Weekly interview went very well. We've had an insane amount of interest and continued interest. And, I'd recommend anybody going over to look at it because, some of the stuff both you and Hogner said is, from a technical point of view, is going to be really helpful for people. And it's always good when other people are asking it as opposed to you and I, particularly when you're talking to yourself. So,
Yeah, well, it brought a new angle to things as well. And they had some, like you said, observations that maybe things we hadn't thought about before and maybe stuff that we haven't mentioned on this show. And it was an hour long as well. It's obviously hosted by Twit, the Twit network, which I think are probably the biggest video netcast network in the world. And as you said, a lot of new interest, and a lot of people have been in touch this week saying they'll watch the episode. So if you did, hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't seen it yet, we'll put a link in this video description. Now this week though, obviously any online product would be nothing in 2017 without a community around it. And we want to introduce you to Anneke, Leigh, who is our Friend Community Manager. Welcome to Friend Update, Anneke.
Thank you for having me today. And I think this week is perfect timing for this, given the interest that we had off the Twit video last week.
Absolutely. Your job might become a little bit more intense over the next few weeks, hopefully.
Absolutely.
That would be wonderful. There's nothing better than a hot and active community to just for everyone to enjoy as well as enhance the product.
Well, let's just find out really briefly. I mean, what is kind of your background before Friend?
About 30 years in high tech, managing development teams, professional services teams, running beta programs, building and increasing communities, trying to tie all that together on a global basis. I like being customer facing, and by customer, I don't just mean the paying customers. I usually like to lead toward the developers and the community, all the way back in the old board days. So this has always been a special passion of mine.
And how long have you been, working with Friend?
Just a little over 2 years now. I went with to the Amiga 30th reunion. First time I'd ever been to any Amiga event ever. And the first people I meet are Hagana and Arna. And they started just briefly going over the technology. And I just immediately said, this is a game changer. This is one of those things. And living in Silicon Valley, we hear it's a game changer. It's the next revolution. It's the most fantastic thing since sliced bread every 7 minutes. But this was different and really, really caught my interest and said, I'd like to be involved. I'll help.
And what was it about Friend that initially attracted you then?
One of the things with being in the Valley specifically and in lots of customer-facing roles is you get to hear people's frustrations. What is their frustration? And all this technology and our slim and light computers that our smartphones are supposed to make our lives easier, better, faster. And often they make us want to grab it by the corner and fling it through the nearest window. And sometimes that is because we have multiple user interfaces. We have different connection points. Some of our data's here, some of our data's there. Am I at the office? Am I at home? Did I save that, message only locally? And you're just stymied because you're not at work or you're not home, but you have to be at work. And by that, I don't mean physically anymore. I think we're at work almost all the time. Because of our communication styles. And Friend took that immediately. That was the very first thing that hit me, was it took that frustration away. I could just work anywhere on anything and have access to all my stuff.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing about it is, and certainly from what you've just said, is, you've got this marriage of connectivity with collaboration, and it's certainly, as you said, you're in the Bay Area, technology and collaboration and connectivity, that's kind of a hub for it. So how do you see Friend sort of helping the community or its community that it's building? And how do you see yourself helping that community?
let me answer the second part of that first. I see myself helping the community by getting the word out and then supporting the community so that they know where they can go to communicate, where they can go to participate. We have lots of participation activities coming up, and helping them so that they can use this technology to make their life easier, better, faster. And I think the community can then do the same thing. They can, because our community is just us. It's people, it's developers, it's users. And if your life is easier, then you're happier. And I think that's great.
And what kind of resources are available for people who want to join the friend community and get technical support and help?
Now we're getting to the interesting stuff. So there are several options to join in our community, participate with our community. We're on GitHub, of course. We have the friend community, and you'll supply the links for that in this video explanation. We have an IRC channel. We're actually in Slack, but we're not quite open yet, so keep an eye out for that, and we'll keep everybody notified of that. We have forums, developer forums, user forums. We have Reddit, Facebook groups, and of course LinkedIn. So we have all of those different areas to participate in. We're actively seeking applications. We would love to see people use Friend for something like you guys said at the beginning of the video that maybe we haven't thought of yet or haven't used it that way yet. So that would be wonderful, and we will be posting and sharing those on our communities. We're talking about having a little bit of a contest around that. And we'd also love people to submit little videos like this, but short ones that are going, hey, I use Friend to do this. And then we will be sharing those across the community as well.
Cool. So in terms of developers then, what sort of developers and users would you, I mean, obviously everybody, but who are you really interested in terms of, particular applications and things like that?
I think in this particular section of community building, we're really focused on the developers. We're trying to give the developers a tool that helps them succeed, or tools, I should say, that helps them succeed. And so the focus and the support is initially going to be all around developers. So there'll be less marketing and less, user-focused communications. And this will be really targeted. We're going to do some hackathons for our best and brightest or our most active users. We're going to have some avatar awards based on activity. We're going to be sending T-shirts out if somebody puts a great app up or a great video or has entered 10 bugs or is just talking with us all the time. We're going to send them an email and say, hey, we're going to send you a T-shirt. Give me your address. We're doing stats and sharing who's doing what because everybody likes to be known in the community. And so we just want to make sure that this is a win all the way around. We also have I'm sorry, I just wanted to jump in with this real quick. We're going to be scheduling a Stump the Architect session, 15-minute session once a month where anyone can join and they can ask the architects of Friend anything they want. And the point of it is try to ask them a question they can't answer.
Oh, I like that.
Stump the Architect.
I like the sound of that. Watch them squirm.
Excellent.
But I mean, I think you made an interesting point there about, everyone likes to be known. And I think Friend is a perfect kind of playground for that because it's it's still a relatively new platform and people are still discovering it all the time. And really, if you are a developer and you make an application nice and early on this platform, when we get the Friend store launched, and I imagine pretty much everyone that uses the platform will probably download it, and it's kind of a chance for someone to become relatively famous pretty fast, I suppose, isn't it? Really,
I believe so, especially because we're going to help them share what they're doing. So it won't just be on their own and talking to their friends and their personal communities. We're going to be sharing it across all of our communities and saying, hey, look at this. And maybe we'll have a video in the future that you two host about some of the cool ideas that people have submitted in applications and videos.
We're in the Steam generation now, aren't we? It's never been easier to distribute your stuff, providing you can get it out there and have it known. So I think that's the key thing. So in terms of the community in the US, because you're based in the US. Tell us a little bit more about that in terms of the US angle on Friend and enterprise and things like that.
Okay, the US is a little bit unique in that we have such broad options to work with communities. There's very specific silos, there's broad sharing, but there's so many to choose from. And so what we're trying to do is look at which ones we can help the most. Say, we know these particular communities are suffering from this particular issue, and we're going to go say, hey, can we help you and help you make your job easier, your life easier, and in turn see how they use the friend technologies. Because as you said earlier, it's just crazy what people are coming up with that we haven't even thought of. Now my role is pretty global, so we do have the U.S. community. I don't know why I continually pick global roles. It means you don't sleep. But apparently as an insomniac, that worked out just great for me. But again, just the U.S. base, and people think the U.S. is a single area, and it's not. I mean, Adam, living in the South, that there are probably 20 almost separate countries here in the U.S. Even
absolutely.
Northern California and Southern California are different, even in the technical world. And then you have these hot pockets like Austin and North Carolina and Michigan. It's just so we're going to be approaching all of those directly and a little bit differently depending on their culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where things like meetups and stuff like that may be a little bit more unique than I would say,
Yes.
Because obviously I'm British and I live in the US now. But, in Europe and stuff, it's easier to communicate because in a way the communities are smaller in one respect, in the sense that they communicate a lot more frequently. Over here, I think meetups and stuff like that play such an important role on the ground. And, the Bay Area as well, that's a prime example of it again, as I'm sure you can testify. So
I think last week, a couple weeks ago, we checked, and there are several hundred meetups a week within driving distance.
Yeah.
So it is. People want to have that face-to-face community feel. And by the way, this sort of video chat allows you to do that even if you can't get in the car and drive.
Yep, absolutely. And I think, again, the friend chat is a unique thing about that because you can have so many screens up and running at once. And just some of the tools as well. It's a little bit more geared, I think, towards collaboration, not just on a developer end, because it is a developed tool, but also in terms of a general sort of casual stroke lifestyle end. I guess like you were saying at the beginning, work's become a lifestyle thing now, isn't it? It's
yes.
And it's cool that we can work on the beach or in a coffee shop. Or, anyway, you got your laptop, you take friend, you've got it there.
Yeah, or with my wife's drawn hand going into my head.
Yes. Pointing Adam's head.
Well, let's talk a bit about the future, Anneke, because we've all kind of maybe got our vision and something we'd like to see the community and people who are developing for Friend. I mean, is there any kind of what you'd like to see maybe 12 months down the line? What you'd like to see yourself and Friend?
Oh, I would like to see our community just super active and thriving with lots of input from our community members. Part of the philosophy behind the development of Friend is kind of based on the word. It's let's help our world, our community, locally and in its entirety. And so I would like to see people jump onto that culture and really make it a friends sharing zone and very, very active. And then have people take our technologies and go build successes of their own. And I know that sounds weird. That really is a base corporate culture of this company is we want to help people. And whether that's in academia or individual developers or life in general, I know it's said all the time, but I was really impressed that the founders of this company really believe this.
Yeah, and I think, we're probably the same, Adam. What makes me tick is seeing what people will do with this technology. And when you see a new use case, it's like, wow, I didn't even know it could do that. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with you. It's, as David Pleasant says, it is about enabling, enabling people.
Exactly.
And I think that's the key thing. And I think the really exciting thing about this is, as we talked about in the first video with this shift in Web 4.0, whatever you want to call it, as infrastructures for the internet get more complicated, really we're seeing like we did in the 70s with microchips from things like calculators being used for computers and things like the homebrew computer club were told this would never work by the establishment, but the counterculture that surrounded that was it built an entire industry. And I think we're seeing the same here where with Friend and infrastructures as software, as browsers, whatever you want to call it, in the same way. So I think we're at a very exciting time. And I think like you said, the founders of this company, they're not just saying it, they believe it, and that's strong.
And I think, to go back to what you just said, Adam, one of the best ways to fire up a developer is tell them he can't do something.
Absolutely. Exactly. Like I said, counterculture.
I like that a lot. One of the uses that actually ended up in our white paper came out of a conversation I had with a professor that I know, where we were just going over, kind of showing him a little bit of it, demonstrating this summer at a holiday event. And he said, this would save me weeks of work at the beginning of my classes, because students come with whatever, bring your own hardware. And we spend the first 2 to 3 weeks trying to configure everybody's hardware so they can get the software that we need for this class downloaded and working. And he said, if I could just put this up on a friend server, it links, go use it there. He goes, I've taken that down to 1 day from a couple of weeks. And he's working on implementing it now, so we'll be happy to get the feedback from him and his students. And we're also challenging them to, once they figure out what kind of apps they can build and submit them.
Absolutely.
Well, you even think about, every university around the world, and you add up all those man hours that's going to save. That's in itself is incredible.
Yeah, and also knowing what things like Joomla are like, it's a completely world apart from there. So yeah, and again, connectivity and collaboration, prime example. Yep.
Exactly.
Well, Anneke, the friendly face of friend, always available with any questions you've got, whether it's from a developer perspective, anything you want assistance with, maybe you just want to say hello. We're always hanging out on IRC on the forums. I'll put all of those links in the video description. Thank you for joining us, Anneke. Will you come back again at some point?
I would be delighted. Thank you so much for having me today. Thank you.